Jenny. I want to talk to you about monitoring your pet once they become diabetic. So, in the beginning, you get an insulin dose from your vet, and this is a beginning dose. So we start low, and then we gradually increase the dose of insulin according to the pet's need. It takes about 2 weeks for the body to adjust to each new insulin dose. So initially you'll get a dose from your vet, say it's 1 unit twice a day. You'll do that for 2 weeks, and then you will do something called a glucose curve. A curve is a way of measuring how effective the insulin is in your pet's body over a 12-hour period. Traditionally, what that means is that you would feed your pet breakfast, give them their injection, and then you would drop them off at the vet for 12 hours. And every 2 hours, starting 2 hours after breakfast, we will take blood from your pet and record their blood sugar. And this is the only way to know what the insulin is doing and how well it's working in your pet's body. So then you'll get the curve done. The vet will say to you, okay, I'm going to increase the insulin. Here's your new dose. We'll do another curve in 2 weeks. And you repeat this pattern until you get to the right dose for your pet. And once that happens, you might only have to have a curve like every 6 months, or if your pet becomes ill for some reason. But in the beginning, it is a lot of curves and, monitoring to see what the insulin is doing and how effective it is. So traditionally, like I said, you would drop your pet off at the vet. There are other ways that we do this now. Stress causes the blood sugar to go up. So if your pet has to sit in a cage for 12 hours and get blood taken every 2 hours, that's very stressful for them, especially for cats. So there's different ways of monitoring now. So we have, it's called the Freestyle Libre. It is a 14-day sensor that we place on your pet, usually between their shoulder blades or up in the scruff. It is a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM for short, and it should last for 14 days. So once this is applied to your pet, you take your pet home, and then you pick a day where you're going to be home for 12 hours, and you do the curve yourself at home. There is a reader that you can purchase from your pharmacy that goes with this. The reader lasts for 3 years. Or you can download a free app on your phone, which is what most people choose to do. If your phone is relatively up to date, whether it's Droid or Apple, you can go to your store and download the Freestyle Libre app and put in your pet's information, and then you use your phone to swipe over the sensor. So the sensor looks just like this. It looks like a button. So it's just a little round button that you're going to put on your pet. Initially, to get it in, it goes in with a needle or a stylet. It's the same as if you were getting an IV catheter, right? So the needle goes in, and then they pull the needle out, and so just the plastic catheter is left inside. In with the CGM, it is a little tiny filament. It's not even a catheter. It's a very floppy, thin filament. And so normally pets tolerate this pretty well because they don't feel it, nothing's poking them. And then the filament measures the interstitial fluid, which is the fluid between the cells, and that's how it gets the blood sugar reading. So it's going to be different than if you were to take blood and get a reading with blood, and that's okay. It's all right for if there's a little bit of a difference in the numbers. When you swipe over the sensor that's been placed on your animal, you will get a number. The number will be recorded in your app, and most of our vets here are linked in, and so they will also get a record of your pet's blood sugar. And then once you've collected all the samples throughout the day, your vet will email you or call you with an adjustment. Okay, and then you just carry on for 2 weeks, and then you would do another curve. So you may have to purchase a few sensors in the beginning until you find the right dose that works for your pet. And then once you have that, you may not have to do a curve, like I said, unless your animal gets sick or unless it's like a 6-month checkup. the other way, before we had the sensor, we would do blood sugar checks with a glucometer. So a glucometer comes with testing strips like this, and traditionally you would take out a strip, put it into the glucometer, put it in correctly, and then the glucometer would come on. You get a drop of blood and you put it right here on these two half circles, and then it will tell you what your pet's blood sugar is. The way that we do it, if we're doing blood and people were doing a curve using this device, so you would prick along your pet's ear, along the edges of the ear to get the drop of blood. You can also prick a paw pad, but you have to go pretty deep in order to get that to bleed, and most people chose to prick the ear. The problem is, if you have a cat and you're trying to prick their ear every 2 hours, they're usually gonna run and hide after the first time they figure it out. And it's the same thing with the dogs. You have to have an extremely cooperative pet in order to test this way. So with the Freestyle Libre, it's so much easier because they don't feel anything after the initial placement. You just swipe it over them. You're not chasing them down, trying to poke them with a needle. So this is definitely the preferred way to go. Some people and some vets still do want to do the glucometer. You need to talk it over with your vet and see what you feel comfortable with. There are some animals who don't tolerate the sensor and they will try to rub it off. You know, they'll go under the bed and they'll rub up against the slats on the bed or a chair to get it off of them. If that is the case for your pet and they're not tolerating the CGM, you can do, for cats, you can do a fructosamine test. Fructosamine is a blood test, kind of like the human A1C, and it measures how their blood sugar's been over the past few weeks. So you can bring your pet in, they'll take some blood, and they'll do a fructosamine, and you can regulate your pet off of that, off of the fructosamine test. It takes a little bit longer, but especially for cat owners, sometimes they won't tolerate the sensor, so you can do it this way. That way you're still not leaving them in the hospital for 12 hours. You don't have that, necessarily have that stress factor that you would have previously when we did curves the other way with hospitalization. So that is how we monitor. And you can talk over these options with your vet and see what you feel comfortable with. So with monitoring and glucose curves, you are going to be doing 2 to 3 curves at least until you get to the dose that works for your pet. So in the beginning, it is more overwhelming. One, it's new. Diabetes is new to you, and learning to manage it takes time. But you need glucose curves every 2 weeks until you find the dose that works for your pet. And then once that happens and your pet is regulated, you may not have to do another curve for 6 months, or you don't have to do it unless your pet gets sick. It's something that you can talk about with your vet. In summary, I just want to say that we are always here for you. I tell my pet families that I teach diabetic training to call anytime. We are 24 hours. I would rather you call 100 times than not be sure of what you're doing. Okay, so we're always here for you. When you call, you would just let them know that you have a diabetic animal and you have questions. They'll either give you to a nurse or to one of the veterinarians to answer your questions. You can also email your vet if you have questions, but if they're urgent or you're concerned about anything, please call us, because we are always here for you. I'm happy to talk to anyone, anytime. I love doing diabetes training, so you can always ask for me, but anyone here will help you.